you don't really have much control over anything in life. Not as much as you would want to have anyway. And that's okay. It really is. Psalm 33 reminds us of the lack of control in a couple of ways. It says, "No king is saved by the size of his army. No warrior escapes by his great strength. A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save." And of course, why does a king invest in the size of his army? Because he wants to control the outcome. Why does a warrior work to get stronger and stronger? Because he wants to control the outcome of his battles. Why do people put their hope in horses? Because they're stronger than people typically and faster. And, this is using lingo back in the days of hand-to-hand combat and a lot more fighting on the battlefields instead of from faraway places with technology. But the same principle applies. We invest in a lot of things. We invest in ourselves to try to make ourselves as strong as possible so that we can control the outcome of things. And we just can't. There are so many things in life that we obviously cannot control. I mean, there's, the normal stuff like the weather and how people drive on the highway, and we can't control other people and how they act or react. We can't control our kids entirely, as no matter how much we guide them. We can't control their decisions, and all of that can be frustrating. But I want to take you to Romans 7 to dwell for just a little bit on one of the things in our lives that is most frustrating when we can't control it the way that we want to. And that, of course, is us. Romans 7, that's where the Apostle Paul writes, like the good that I want to do, that I know I ought to do, that's not the stuff I end up doing. The bad things that I don't want to do and I know I shouldn't do, day after day, time and again, those are the things that I end up doing. Paul was frustrated with his lack of ability to control himself. And what's interesting about Paul saying those things is that saying those things and acknowledging those things didn't make him an unbeliever. It made him just another person who needed Jesus to fully control the outcome of his existence. Because we can't do that on our own. If it were up to us, we'd never find heaven. We'd never feel good in a place with God. We'd always be living in fear. We'd always have a lot of doubt. We'd be drowning in worry and anxiety. And sometimes we find ourselves in those places anyway. But it's not because God hasn't done his part. After Paul goes through that section and he says, the good I want to do, I don't do, and the bad things I don't want to do, these are the things that I keep on doing. It's like he's writing out his frustrating cry of anguish from his heart on the page when he says, what a wretched man I am. What a wretched man I am. Who's going to rescue me from this body that's subject to death? And then he answers his own question. Well, thanks be to God, who gives me the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. And what's the best outcome for any of our lives? It's to be in a place where there's no more death, there's no more crying, there's no more pain, there's no more disappointment. A place where I'm never again confronted with my weakness because I don't have any weaknesses. That's the place that's already yours. And you didn't have to control anything to make that happen. Jesus needed to control himself and remain on that cross when every part of his human body was screaming at him to get off. But he didn't. He had the self-control and determination to love you more than anything. And because he did, and because it's finished, there is no pressure on you at all. None. You don't have to do anything but rest in the assurance that he's done it all. He's paid it all. He's completed the mission. And he didn't complete the mission to leave you behind somewhere along the way. He completed the mission fully determined to control all of history, all the things going on in your life, even the things you can't control, to get you to be there with him. The God who can control everything. There's a reason he tells you that you don't need to worry about anything. Not even you. It's already done. You've already won. Rest well tonight, my friends.